Hey, good afternoon. My name is Sean Harden. I'm with Texas Open Door Realty right here in Round Rock, Texas, and I have the privilege today to sit down with Mark Westerfield, Senior Pastor at Central Baptist Church. And Mark, I was thinking about it. My wife and I, Kristen, we moved here in 1999 and met you in Pound probably not long after that. So 18, 19 years were going on, which is kind of crazy to think about.
It is crazy. Your kids are grown.
Yeah, absolutely. And saw your kids in their, I guess, later teenage years here.
Yeah.
And got to be a part of that. And I just wanted to sit down with you today and just talk about, what brought you and Pam originally.
Yeah.
Now, I know your story a little bit. I know you grew up in Waco but can you talk a little bit about what brought you and Pam to Round Rock?
Yeah. It's interesting. We're old timers here now. I mean, there are some around that have been around longer than we have, but we came here in 1985.
Okay.
And city limit sign said about 11,000
Wow.
at that time. So you can just imagine how it was different. Bedroom community of Round Rock, and I think the traffic thinned out here, so everybody just kind of lived here at the time. But we look down, it's all connected, and I don't know what all the numbers are currently, but I grew up in Waco and went to Baylor University and graduated from there. I had done student ministry for years, and in 1985, my wife and I came here with our 3 little kids, and I was the youth minister at First Baptist Church just downtown there. And that brought us here in 1985. But just imagine, Sean, that in 1985, Westwood existed, but Westwood, North Austin, Westwood High School, Round Rock High School was the predominant thing. And so all of our students went to either CD Folks or Chisholm Trail Middle School and then transferred into Round Rock High School. And man, for student ministry, it was a great thing. One school to have to deal with. Now it's unbelievable, the number of kids. But we came here in '85 and came here. And for those that were around in the late '80s, it was not a boom time for Round Rock. It was actually the oil bust had come and there was a decline, but 1990 was coming. And things seemed to take a shift at that point.
Well, and I know too, and I know we don't have a lot of time necessarily, but I know you had shared your testimony, and I know you kind of felt God's calling on your life as a teenager, right?
Yeah.
And so you felt that calling into ministry at that young age, and you mentioned that went to Baylor, graduated from there, and how'd you come across the youth pastor's job at First?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I was going to seminary in Fort Worth. We lived in Stephenville, which was about an hour and a half out of Fort Worth. We lived in Stephenville. I'd carpool into seminary because I was on the staff at First Baptist Church there in Stephenville as the youth minister. And when I graduated, we were staying in Stephenville, loved it there, but got a call from Buddy Crossley, who was the head of the search team at First Baptist Church. So whenever I bump into Buddy, I always say, Buddy, you're the reason that we're in Round Rock. But Buddy called me initially and talking about the youth ministry position. And initially I told him no. We weren't interested. And 3 months later he called me back and we just began to pray through it. Didn't know anybody in Round Rock, didn't know anything about Round Rock other than that Buddy had called me. And so we came here and visited, talked to their search team, and just really felt like God was in it. So here we are.
Yeah. And obviously, you've seen tremendous growth and tremendous change, and you mentioned that earlier. I just wanted to ask you, as you and Pam have raised your kids here, what do you think, and we'll get into your passion for couples and families too, but what do you love the most about Round Rock and the Central Texas area?
Growing up in Waco and going to Baylor, your thoughts about Austin it was almost the Antichrist because of the University of Texas and that kind of stuff, so I didn't spend a whole lot of time down here in the Austin area or Round Rock or Hill Country or anything like that. So when we came here, it was, just the people, it was just a great place to be for us. Very, very family oriented. It was a great place to raise our kids here, and now our grandkids are here, and so we enjoyed that part of it. And our kids. One thing is, as growth started to happen, one thing I think about is that I came to the conclusion, if my kids could learn to drive in Round Rock with the traffic that was happening, they could drive anywhere. So that was a good thing.
Yeah. Well, and just think what it would be even now today, learning how to drive.
Oh man. Well, you don't need a cruise control, that's for sure. You're stop and go all the time.
Yeah. It's amazing. So obviously, at some point, you moved from First Baptist Church and over and really formed Central Baptist and across from the Round Rock High School, and that was North Lake.
There was two congregations. There was Lake Creek Baptist Church, which was there on Lake Creek Drive, and then there was Northeast Baptist Church. Quick history. First Baptist Church had started a mission church called Northeast Baptist Church, meeting at the Texas Baptist Children's Home. And in 1990, the congregation had hit a decline, and they were wondering whether we should keep going. Like I said, it wasn't a booming time for Round Rock at that time. But Pam and I prayed and talked to our pastor there, and long story short is we went over to kind of do a relaunch of that Northeast Baptist Church, and the thing began to grow. We kind of outgrew the children's home, where we're meeting in C.D. Folks Middle School, and this was in 1993. And what happened is the congregation over there on Lake Creek Drive, they had hit a decline a little bit. Their leadership had been called away, and they contacted me about us talking about what we could do we had people and no building, they had a building, no people. Maybe there was something we could do about this. And so what we ended up doing was just praying through it. And what we decided to do is, there for a short time I was pastor of both congregations. I'd go preach at one, go preach at the other, and we did that until we just prayerfully looked at this thing and said, what would be the best? And so what we did is we dissolved Lake Creek Baptist, we dissolved Northeast Baptist, and we started a brand new church plant called Central Baptist Church. So that's why 1993 is the birthday of Central, and we just celebrated 25 years.
Right,
this past fall,
and that was pretty awesome. I got to come experience that with you. And I was going to ask you, on that, what do you feel like's kind of been your key to success, longevity of being for the 25 years, and really just to coincide with all the growth that's going on here?
Yeah. Man, that's a good question. I kind of grew up in a tradition where nobody in my family was in ministry, but those I did know would be around like 5 years and then gone or something like that, and not stick around that long. When we came here, starting out in the youth ministry and then going over to the church start situation, and I always thought, okay, Lord, you're probably going to call me away to somewhere else. I'm willing to go if you want me to go. We really love Round Rock. And then, people talk about going all the time in ministry. Abraham went when the Lord told him, and we say, go into all the world and make disciples. So we're always talking about going. I can remember distinctly just feeling an impression from the Lord that, most people are willing to go, are you willing to stay? Right. And with that, boy, that was good. Are you willing to just put down your roots here and love the people and do that? And so with that mindset, we're not looking to go anywhere. We're looking to love the people here, love the community here. And also one other thing is that, most people feel called to a church. We felt called to a community. And there's a different thing about that, to be called to a community. So that's our calling. We love Round Rock. I cannot imagine Round Rock not in my address.
Not in your life and all that. Yeah. You kind of mentioned something a minute ago, talking about the Texas Baptist Children's Home. Mm-hmm. And, wow, that's has such its own ministry, obviously here in Round Rock and Central Texas. And Central Baptist has been privileged to work with and partner with the Children's Home. And you mentioned even starting services over there way back when. Well, it's interesting the ties, because even like Gary Wakefield, one of our brokers here, his wife grew up there,
Jennifer,
and he came here to be on staff there in the late 70s. And he actually met Jennifer, his wife, or later to be his wife, and that was his, one of his first jobs, and now he's running Texas Open Door Realty, and there's just so many amazing ties, and honestly, I feel like that's what makes Round Rock so unique.
I think Texas Baptist Children's Home, when I talk to the other pastors in town, I say, man, it's the hidden jewel of Round Rock. Through what they do, especially for the Family Cottage program, taking single moms with kids and helping them to get where they can get on their feet and succeed. The Starring program, which is counseling for free that you can get. Most people don't know about these things. And then with the cottage program itself, just helping kids out the way they need to. It's a hidden jewel that many people don't even know about.
Wow. Yeah, and I see Starry across the street from the children's home. I didn't realize they were connected. Interesting. Well, we've talked about just kind of the growth of Round Rock, and I mentioned a minute ago or earlier that you and Pam, y'all have a heart for couples and just blessing couples and really kind of guiding them to the pitfalls that they're faced with today. And I think, or let me ask you this, what do you see kind of as the biggest challenges for couples in Round Rock, Texas today?
Well, there's a lot of them. Number one, people come here and they love to come here. I mean, they're coming here mainly for business. It seems like the whole world's coming here, especially from California way because of all the high-tech stuff. And people are coming here, and anytime you relocate, it's stress. It's stress. Then you're probably leaving family behind. One of the things we're seeing now, which I love, is that we're seeing more and more grandparents come here because their kids are here and their grandkids are here, which I think a missing element here for so long was grandparents. So you got that stress of coming, you've got the stress of putting new relationships, new friendships. How long are we going to be here? Do we build that long of friendships? We'll see people who will come to the church that, how long you lived in Round Rock? Well, we've lived in the area about 5 years, but we haven't found a church home. And it leads me to know, man, they're busy with their work, they're busy with their family, they're busy trying to get all these things done. And yet that relationship of community around their spiritual life sometimes gets devoid. And so what happens is that, that puts stress on your marriage, and kids put stress on your marriage. Trying to make it puts stress on your marriage. So there's no margins in your life to speak of. You just get that stress.
Yeah, I know, one thing that both Kristen and I's parents kind of always instilled upon us is that, especially in our early years of marriage, we moved around a lot. I think we moved 9 times in the first 10 years of marriage, and they always said, hey, we just encourage you, the first thing you do, get to a town is get involved in a church, find a church, because you've got that instant support group in that. And so with that kind of thought, what advice would you give couples that are moving here to Round Rock today?
Well, I tell you what, especially as a young couple, to sit in a circle with some other couples who are raising kids, or maybe they don't have kids, you're just newly married, and you're with a community, you develop a community, and you think you and your wife are the only two going through this problem, and somebody across the room says, man, we're struggling with this, and all of a sudden you hear that, and it's like, you look at your spouse and say, man, we're normal. We're normal that we're going through this. But once again, you need community because, listen, we live in a fallen world. Things happen. Things happen, and we need other people that are going to swell up around us to be there with us. And we kind of have a thought at our church. We call it Jesus with skin on. We got to be that for each other when we're going through those times. So if you're separated and you don't have community, man, you can feel isolated.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Mark, one of the things that always drew Kristen and I to you and Pam, and is that one, you know, your heart's open to following where God's leading you, you know, and you live your life by example. I think, you know, I tell people about you, and I say, hey, you know, Mark is a man's man. You know, Mark, you know, he loves sports, you know, all those things, but at the same time, and most importantly, he loves God, you know, and so, you know, I've always appreciated that about you. And then, of course, you know, you and Pam coming together as a team, you know, and
I outpunted my coverage with my wife, that's for sure.
Well, and I follow your lead on that. I always say I married way up when I married Kristen, and you know, she's a lot of, I can say, my moral compass. She's my check and balance.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, all those things, and I think with all that said, you know, as I've done these interviews, I talk to people and say, hey, you know, what would you recommend the first thing people do when they move to Round Rock or to Central Texas? And I think what we're saying is, the neat thing is hey, get plugged in.
Well, we live in a day where so many couples, family, they worship their kids.
Right.
And I mean, we ought to love our kids. We ought to take care of our kids, everything we can. But you know as well as I do, one day the nest is going to be empty.
Right.
And now we're into the grandkid thing, and that's a blast. But man, you got to work on that relationship and keep God in the center of your family, and you'll see incredible things take place. That's what I believe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need to find a Christ-centered community that you can connect with. Right. And this is a great community, Sean. You know that. I love Central. I love everything about Central. But we have a saying among the pastors here that there's one church in Round Rock, just different expressions. Mm-hmm. And if Central's not the place for a couple, and they're visiting and they talk to me, I say, listen, before you run off, talk to me, because I know all the pastors and churches in this area. Mm-hmm. Let me help you find the fit for you, which you need it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the important thing. You know, is people have to find where they're comfortable, you know, and to realize, you know, the church, I mean, the church is made up of human beings.
Sure.
We're all sinners and fall short. And for so long, the church was kind of put up on that pedestal, and people got disenchanted with that. And I think once now people realize, hey, we're real. You know, it's we're all facing the same struggles.
We understand that we're all broken, and you know, people will say sometimes, "Oh, I don't want to go to church. The church is full of hypocrites." Well, I'll say, "Yeah, our church is full of hypocrites. I'm the first one." You know, I mean, I wish I could live out everything I preach and teach, but I know I'm not where I was, and I'm not where I'm going to be. Yeah. Sure.
Well, I appreciate, you know, you guys and your ministry here in Round Rock, and just, you know, with all the tremendous growth, and now Apple's announced they're building
it's crazy.
Another headquarters here, and so it's going to continue to explode. And so, you know, I certainly appreciate, you know, you and Pam and Central's influence in Round Rock and Central Texas. And with that said, you know, any plug you want to give for Central or anything?
Well, like I said, Central's a great place. And also, we house Round Rock Christian Academy on our campus, which is a great school for our community, pre-K through 12th grade. And we, you know, Sean, you talk about the demographics of Round Rock, and you know, we can talk ethnicities and we can talk about finances and this kind of stuff, but when we talk about the demographics, it's mainly families that are coming here. And so Central, as well as most of the congregations in the city, believe in family ministry, because statistics are out that 70+% of people find their faith between the ages of 4 and 14. And so we're looking at a demographic, so we believe that it's just vital, you know, that the whole family is ministered to.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, that's incredible. And Mark, again, I appreciate your time, and thank you for sitting down with me this afternoon.
Here's one thing about living somewhere a long time. We live over in the northeast sector behind Old Settlers Park over there. And living here as long as we lived 20 years in Edgar Acres, and then we've lived the last 14 years over in Settlers Crossing out there. Here's the good thing about living somewhere a long time. My route to work, you know, if I come down Old Settlers, 3406, you never know with the traffic what you're going to do. So I've got a route that takes me back through, turn on Sunrise, go down Old Bowman, through Mesa Park, Georgetown Street, come through downtown, hit McNeil, Round Rock West Park where the duck pond is, back to our congregation.
Yeah,
I know exactly how long it's going to take me.
That's the scenic route, and you hit on Edgar Acres, and Edgar Acres really being, that was really, for all official purposes, the first subdivision in Round Rock.
That's right.
And so just phenomenal stuff there.
Yeah.
But we'll bless you, and
All right.
and thank you.
Thanks.